Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm just going to give myself a little pick-me-up here with a Scooby snack. As you can see, Scooby's on the left there watching me. This is a real needed pick-me-up for the past month. I've had a terrible virus, but we'll not dwell on that. And we'll move on to the crux of the video, which is Stumbler's Phantom Lanterns. Now, if you haven't had a mod from Stumbler Pinball, the first thing you'll notice is the presentation, how nicely packed his mods are. Now, nothing lays loose on its own. Everything is individually wrapped. Here we have Pinball is rad, we all know that. And the documentation is online. So everything is, as I said, individually wrapped, usually in anti-static bags. It's a little trick to get open this one. And sitting on top there are the lanterns themselves. Wow, how nice is this? And I don't think the video gives it justice. These are actually a brass handle on the top there and the brass hood that shows the reflector one side and that lens. That's a superb little touch. It's even sort of convex, and inside you can see the brains there that attaches to the Lollipop Stumbler's Phantom Lantern. Very, very nice. So I'll speed this boring bit up quickly. There's a lollipop, the 4 lanterns and the bag of leads and gubbins that we need to connect the lanterns. So before we start, very importantly, remove the plug from the pinball, not just unplug it from the wall. Someone could come along, plug it in, switch it on, and you end up with a new hairstyle or worse. So I've removed the lock bar and the glass. I put them safe up against the wall. Now, when lifting the playfield, it's best to be very careful here. It's easy to scratch the side blades. I've used my side blade protectors, which I highly, highly recommend. This will protect the sides as it goes up and down during the process of installing the mod. A couple of things I'm going to mention that's unique to Scooby-Doo itself, I've not seen on other spooky pins. I have a TNA and a Rick and Morty, which is gone now. But as you lift the playfield up, if you notice the circle LED that's around the button, that can easily be caught when you lift the playfield up or put the playfield back. So be very careful there. So I've removed the 7 balls. I'm going to put them somewhere safe, and I'm now going to lift and pull the table towards me. Now, that other thing I mentioned, unique about Scooby, is the drop targets that's on the left. If you lift the playfield up and slide it towards you, and if you're looking over your right shoulder at the rubber stop to drop into the channel for the lock bar, as you normally would, you would actually be catching them drop target mech, and you could easily damage the circuit board there. I noticed this. You can see me pop my head over. I noticed this, and I had to push it forward. So them rubber stops can't actually sit in that channel, which I find really strange. Next, we're going to locate the power distribution board. This is at the rear of the cabinet. And we're going to look for a red connector. This is in the block of 9 connectors, and as you can see, I'll go down and pull the one out. It may be in a different location for your pin. On this one, it's the 3rd one down. It's a red connector. The first lead we're going to plug in is the power distribution board lead. As you can see, Stumbler Pinball marks up every lead. It's quite obvious where things are going to go, and this is no exception. It's going to make sure you got the lock and tab the right way, and it's going to plug in where you removed that red plug. I've routed the cable along the right side of the cabinet using the 2 cable tidies, And I've also attached the lollipop holder ready to go onto the bottom of the playfield. As you can see, there's 2 small screws that were supplied. Locating the opto board, we're going to use the 2 rightmost screws to attach our lolly board. Simply slide that up. Don't over tighten them, just be careful there. I'll quickly point out the plugs on the lolly board. The end one here is the power. Underneath we have J6, 7, 8 and 9. This is where the lantern's attached to, and the sensors above. Taking the first cable we plugged into the power distribution board. We can tidy this up later with tie wraps, but for now we're going to plug that into the power plug on the edge of the lollipop board. The first lantern is going to go on the lower right of the playfield, where it's going to replace that spotlight there and the connector below it. Disconnecting the spotlight, we're going to leave the Z connector on the lead below it, and we're going to pull that up through the playfield. Now locate the lower playfield spotlight on the left hand side. Here it is, it goes under the board just above my left hand. We take this connector, disconnect it, but this time we leave the Z block on the top part of the lead. Before removing the spotlight, we're just going to relieve the cable a little by loosening this bolt on the top board. Back to the top of the playfield, it's time to remove our first spotlight. And it's just a simple case of pulling it up through the playfield. We can now fit lantern number 1, so we grab an extension and we plug it in. There's only one way this can go in. We now feed that cable down through the playfield to plug into our lollipop. Using the existing screw we removed and the spacer, we're going to pop that back where it came out. Once you have the lantern pointing in the right direction, just make sure that handle on the lantern isn't interfering with the wireform above. Lifting the playfield up, we're going to plug our first lantern in, and that goes into J6. Now to add the sensor for the lantern, we found our spinner switch and we're going to separate that. Using the right spinner switch wire that is in our box of gubbins. Grabbing one of our switches, this is what's going to replace the Z connector itself. So first off, we plug in our sensor cable. Now to replace our switch with the Z connector, just make sure that the lock and tab is the right way around. Doesn't matter which way the switch is, as long as you're routing that sensor in the correct direction. On the other side of that cable, we're just going to plug it into J2 on the lollipop board, and that is the first lantern finished. On to lantern number 2, we need to remove the old spotlight. This I found a little tricky as I was struggling to get the cable up through from the bottom of the playfield. This was also a little trickier than I expected, as Spooky had made the plastic, the fluorescent plastic underneath, quite tight. And I've already had someone ask me to make them one because they broke theirs, so be careful here. I did eventually get mine off safely using a screwdriver just to lever it up there. So again, just watch out for that one. Replacing the plastic and the standoff, we're just going to do the same thing as we did with the last one and make sure it's pointing in the right direction. Once we've routed our wire across, all that's left to do is to plug it into J2. The left lantern is triggered by the left spinner. We can locate that in the middle here. Same deal as the last one. We're going to replace the Z connector with the switch. Again, route that sensor cable across and we're going to plug that into J3. Just a quick note on lantern 2. When I removed the spotlight, the wire was tie wrapped here. I've replaced the lantern in the exact same place to stop any snagging. Next one's the spotlight next to Wolfie. We're just going to remove this plastic to make things easier. There's also 2 screws to remove underneath each of Wolfie's armpits. I'm replacing the spotlight with the lantern. I fed that through to the bottom of the playfield. I'm now going to put the little bolt, coloured bolt that you get as a standoff. You don't use the existing one, you use the one that's been supplied. Replacing Wolfie and the plastics. This time we're going to move across to the left hand side and Captain Cutler. On the Captain Cutler, there's probably no need to remove this plastic as you can actually reach the connectors required for the sensors on the left and right hand. However, I'm going to remove this just so you can get a better view of where I'm connecting to. So we have 3 connectors here, one for Captain Cutler's head and one for the left and right arms. Just make sure you're getting the correct 2. Both sensor wires are marked up here, left and right. So just make sure you get the right ones. And you're just going to connect these and then you're just going to let the cables drop down into the cab. With both cables connected, we can replace the plastic on top. We're finished up here now. We'll put that back the way it was and we're going to lift the playfield. Back to the lollipop, we're going to plug in Wolfie's lantern, which is J9 nearest the playfield. This leaves the last one, Captain Cutler, at J8. We should now have all our power connectors for the lanterns attached, and all that's left to do is reach down, grab those 2 sensors that remain at the bottom of the cab, and they're going to fit in J4 and J5. Just to note, J4 is the right arm and J5 is the left arm. So there we have it. Only one last thing to do. Grab our tie wraps and tidy up the cables. So as the saying goes, the proof is in the pudding. And I must say, Stumbler Pinball has knocked that pudding right out of the park. I can honestly say Spooky Pinball light shows give JJP a run for the money. I've had a few of both. But these lanterns from Stumbler Pinball complement this pin absolutely fabulously. Right from day one, when I received Stumbler's lantern mod, the presentation and the quality were second to none. We know for a fact Stumbler Pinball pride themselves on the integration of their mods with the table, and this is no exception to that rule. So if you're lucky enough to own a Scooby-Doo Pinball by Spooky and you've managed to pick up one of the Stumbler lantern mods, I hope this video has been some help. However, if you do own a Scooby-Doo Pinball and you're on the fence about this mod, I can highly recommend you get in touch with Stumbler to see if there's any left of his limited run. So all there's left to say is thanks for watching. It's really appreciated. The channel has been quiet the past couple of months due to health reasons I will not go into. However, from this point forward, I will try to get something out on a monthly basis. So if you've enjoyed the content and it's been of use, please give me a thumbs up. And in the meantime, remember, cradle those balls and make every shot count.